Hey piano people! In today's tutorial, I'm going to share with you the 4 mistakes that piano players make that stop them from achieving confident musical expression. These mistakes are mistakes that most piano players make. And unfortunately, not only do they prevent you from achieving a high level of confident musical expression, they also make the process of learning the piano really slow and very unenjoyable. I'm going to go through each mistake and I'm going to share solutions and resources with you so that you can overcome these mistakes so that nothing stands in the way of you achieving confident musical expression. Hey there, piano people. I'm Ashley. Welcome to Ashley Young Music Studio, where you're going to learn how to practice smarter, not harder. Let's dive in. Mistake number 1 that will prevent you from achieving confident musical expression is staying zoomed in and forgetting to zoom out. Let me tell you what I mean. Let's say that you really want to learn how to play the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. And so you set out to learn the Moonlight Sonata and you get really tunnel visioned into this one piece of music. It's okay that that is happening because you need that tunnel vision in some sense to be able to stay motivated and to practice enough to the point that you'll be able to learn that piece. But oftentimes in zooming in on that one piece, people forget that learning how to play the piano is actually kind of like learning an entirely new process. And the analogy that I often give for this is learning how to drive. When you set out to learn how to drive, you're not just learning how to get from your house to one destination, right? That would be almost a little bit silly if I was trying to learn. And so I go to the DMV and I get the driver's manual and I start studying and I start watching all the videos and I spend all of these hours just trying to figure out how I could successfully drive from my house to one location. It would take a lot of time. And I would be missing a lot of very important lessons along the way. And the same is true with learning how to play the piano. You want to focus on that one piece, but you also want to zoom out a little bit and think about how can I learn in a way that's very effective and efficient, not only for this piece, but also in learning other pieces at later points in my journey. And so these would be things like practicing slowly, practicing in small sections, counting out loud, skill sets that you will practice not only in the current piece that you are trying to learn, but skill sets that will also transfer to other pieces that you want to learn later down the path of your journey. And the best way to do this is to just think about it a little bit. Think about what are the things that you are doing with this piece that will translate to other pieces. What are the skill sets that you are developing in addition to learning the piece? These are going to be things like learning how to count out loud, learning how to use the metronome, making sure that you have proper technique, making sure that you are being really conscious about the dynamics that you are using. The other thing that will really help you to ensure that you are not making this mistake is knowing how to practice correctly. Because when you are practicing correctly, you are automatically building those skill sets that will transfer to other pieces that you want to learn later in your piano journey. Now, I have a free upcoming event. It is a 4-day long event in Zoom. It's called Piano Practice Lab. And the whole purpose of this event is to teach you how to practice correctly. During these 4 days together, you and I are going to be in Zoom. I'm going to help you design a weekly practice routine that will accelerate your trajectory beyond the notes towards confident musical expression. You'll learn a lot more about which practice methods get you results, which ones are a waste of time, and you will also learn how to move beyond the notes so that you can really tangibly achieve confident musical expression. This event is kicking off on June 3rd. So if you are watching this video when it first comes out, you're going to want to grab the link to Piano Practice Lab in the description below and reserve your free seat right now so that you don't miss it. So pause the video, sign up for Piano Practice Lab, and then come right back so you can hear all about mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 that will absolutely prevent you from reaching confident musical expression is making tempo and dynamics codependent. Let me show you what I mean for this one. So this is the Chopin E minor prelude, and it has this repeated left hand that oftentimes people will think is kind of boring. And so what happens when people are trying to achieve confident musical expression in this piece is they will add a lot of rubato, meaning they'll speed up and slow down all through the piece. And let me show you how this sounds when people do that. I was exaggerating a little bit so that you could really hear it, but you could hear that it felt almost like we were on this roller coaster of like speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down in every single measure. This is a huge mistake. Okay? Oftentimes, when people are trying to achieve a high level of musical expression, they add in all of these tempo changes or all of this rubato, and it really muddles what you should be doing, which is focusing on dynamics. Okay? Because most of the confident musical expression in any piece of music can be achieved with dynamics alone. The tempo changes or the rubato are kind of like salt in a recipe if you're cooking. When you are cooking, you're going to add all of the other spices, you're going to add all of the ingredients to the recipe, and then at the very end, you'll add a little bit of salt and you'll taste it. And if it's not enough, you'll add a little bit more salt and then you'll taste it. And if it's not enough, you'll add a little bit more. But if you're cooking and in the very beginning stages of the recipe, you dump in a whole bunch of salt, there's no way you can take it out if it's too much. The same is true with rubato. If I start a piece and I'm trying to achieve that confident musical expression, and the first thing that I do is add in all of this rubato, it kind of distracts me and it makes me think that I'm doing confident musical expression, but really what I'm doing is I'm making the tempo really uneven, and it's like a quick fix or a seemingly quick fix to confident musical expression. It doesn't actually get you there, and it prevents you from asking better questions and from practicing in a way that will help you achieve dynamics. So let's listen to the same thing with some dynamic changes and maybe a tiny bit of rubato sprinkled in, but mostly dynamics. Much more interesting, right? It's subtle, it's musical, and all of a sudden you're able to capture attention for much longer because the musicality is way more interesting when dynamics are involved. So think of rubato and tempo like salt. You don't want too much of it because it's almost impossible to get rid of once you have too much of it. You want to sprinkle it in at the end stages just to taste. Mistake number 3 that will prevent you from reaching confident musical expression is holding back from sharing music because of performance anxiety. This one is a really tough one for most piano players. The fact of the matter is that most people don't feel really great about getting up in front of other people, even if it's only one person, and sharing the music that they have been so diligently working on. It's scary, but sharing music is one of the best parts of learning how to play the piano, because when you can truly learn how to connect to yourself, connect to the music, and share that with another person, that's when you really do truly achieve confident musical expression, where you know that even when you're nervous, even when you're a little bit scared, even when you're afraid of making mistakes, you still have that high level of musical expression. So whether it's playing for one friend, or learning a piece for your spouse's anniversary, or sharing a video online, sharing music is one of the best ways to achieve confident musical expression. Now, most people don't realize that performance anxiety is something that you can practice. You can actually put yourself in situations where you feel performance anxiety so that you can get more comfortable with it. Now, oftentimes people will say like, oh, the more that you do something you're scared of, the easier it gets. And I'm not going to promise that, because I don't think that performance anxiety becomes easier the more that you confront it, but I will tell you what does happen. When you put yourself in situations where you are making yourself a little bit nervous and you're giving yourself chances to experience performance anxiety, what does happen is you get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I highly recommend that you put yourself in situations where you actually feel performance anxiety so that you can start to develop a relationship with it. You can start to come up with some coping mechanisms, and you can start to feel more comfortable with that discomfort of performing so that you can move past it and achieve that higher level of confident musical expression. We'll be talking about this in Piano Practice Lab as well, but one of the other great things that you could do to work on this is make sure that you are a part of my free Facebook community. Every single week on Friday, we have something that's called the Fearless Friday post. And it's not named Fearless Friday because you're supposed to be not afraid. It's actually kind of like a cheeky name or a joke name because everyone is scared to post a video, but you do it anyway. You practice that bravery. You give yourself that chance to feel anxious and do it anyway. And it's really powerful and people learn a lot from it. So join that Facebook group and start participating in Fearless Friday so that you can get more comfortable with your performance anxiety and move past it so that you can achieve higher levels of confident musical expression. Mistake number 4 that will prevent you from achieving confident musical expression is playing with stiff wrists. Let me show you what I mean for this one. Let's look at the Mozart Sonata in C, K545. It sounds like this. The left hand in this piece is Alberti bass. So it's this pattern of a broken chord with the bottom note top, middle, top, bottom, top, middle, top. Now, oftentimes, most people will get stuck with stiff wrists. Now, in this piece, what that means is that they are keeping the wrist exactly where it is, and they're using the fingers to play each individual note. And they're putting a lot of movement into the fingers. And this happens in a lot of pieces, not just this piece, but this is a great example. Now, as long as you are using the fingers to play this left hand, it's going to be slow and robotic sounding. And these notes are going to poke out, and it's going to make it impossible to make the left hand light and quiet, which is what you need in this piece so that the melody can shine. Now, when you can loosen up the wrist a little bit and start to rotate at the wrist, what happens is you're infusing a little more flexibility into the wrist. All of a sudden, you're rotating instead of staying stiff. And your left hand fingers are able to move less because it's really this little tiny rotation that's helping my left hand fingers move instead of the individual fingers themselves. Now, when you do this, you're able to sound a lot more graceful, a lot lighter, and you're also going to be able to play much faster. Let me show you. So now I'm going to rotate instead of play every individual finger. So much more graceful and light, and it requires that flexibility. So when talking about wrists, don't stay stiff. This is neutral, right? This is neutral. So we always want to return here, but it's okay for you to move up and down with flexibility. It's okay for you to move side to side with flexibility. It's okay for you to rotate with flexibility as long as you are always returning to this neutral position. But in order to achieve confident musical expression, you will need to achieve wrist flexibility with a variety of different technical passages so that you always have access to that speed and fluidity. This is something that we work on extensively in the Casual to Confident Piano Player program, which you will hear all about in Piano Practice Lab. Now, I have another video where I dive a lot deeper on the topic of proper wrist technique, so I'm going to link that right here on the end screen. I'm also going to give you that link to Piano Practice Lab. So if you haven't reserved your free seat yet, do it now so that I can see you in Zoom and so that I can help you move beyond the notes to confident musical expression. I can't wait to see you there. You can grab both of these links right here on the end screen. Happy practicing.